Okay, we are going live for the first time ever on YouTube. And we're also going to go live here on Facebook. So this is the first time. And we're going to go back onto Facebook here to try to get back onto it. Do bear with us while we do this. We've got an interesting program for the YouTube viewers and for Facebook, because what we're going to do is we're going to explain what has happened to us on Twitter. Everybody wants to know what has happened to the biggest Twitter pro-UK unionist account in the world on Twitter. And so we're going to lay it out for you today. And we're going to go live. Just bear with us here as we get scheduled here on Facebook. Now let's see if this is going to get us onto Facebook. And we are live on Facebook. Fantastic. Fantastic. Folks coming in on Facebook, please give us a wave. Please give us a like. Please send in comments and please send in questions. Now I see people coming on to Facebook already. Let's get those numbers up on Facebook because we have a lot to talk to you about today. And we've got a lot of material that I know people have been asking about, specifically what has happened. What has happened to A Force for Good's Twitter account? Everybody wants to know. Unionists want to know. Scottish nationalists want to know. Well, we're here today to lay it all out for you. And so people are coming in. Thank you for coming in on Facebook. Thank you for coming in on YouTube. We're broadcasting live on YouTube for the first time ever. Folks, it's Saturday. It's Scotland. It's 1 p.m. And that means we're back in original form. The legible, credible, inevitable storm, which is A Force for Good, coming to you live from our nerve centre here in the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConaughey. And you know, people have been asking what has happened to A Force for Good's Twitter account. We've had that account for 8 years. We've tended it lovingly like a garden. And it has grown, or it grew, to 30,552 followers as on Monday. Now, on Monday evening, we received a message. That's Monday, the 17th of August, 2020. We received a message from Twitter saying that they had suspended our Twitter account for reasons which I shall get into. Our Twitter account, which was, and hopefully still is, the biggest pro-UK unionist campaigning organisation Twitter account in the world, was taken down without so much as a by your leave. Suspended for an alleged thing I'm going to get to. Now, what I want to emphasize, however, is this was part of a coordinated takedown of several sites worldwide on the same day and on the same hour. For us, it was 2200 hours and 49 minutes. And in this broadcast, I'm going to explain to you exactly what has happened, what we are doing about it, and how you can help us to continue to get our message heard. Now, what happened on Monday night? Several sites were taken down worldwide. Now, as far as we've been able to tell, these included two prominent British satire sites. Satire that might be termed politically incorrect, for want of a better expression. Mainly just humour. These two sites were, one was called Titania McGrath and another was called Jason DuPont. Now, these are two satire sites which are, as far as we can see, run by the same man, a comedian, and he masquerades in one as a very woke woman and in another as a very politically correct man, for example, but poking humor at those stereotypes. For example, Jason DuPont is very proud of the fact that when he's hiring servants, he only hires black servants. So it's poking fun at the woke and politically correct mentality. And these two sites have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they were taken down. Now, we heard of a US site as well that was taken down, and that was called the Babylon Bee. And that is, again, what you might call politically incorrect humor. Tends to be pro-Trump humor, and it can be very funny. It was taken down. It had about 500,000 followers, but it got reinstated very quickly, almost within the hour. And Titania McGrath has been reinstated, but Jason DuPont has not yet been reinstated, even though it's the same person running both accounts, as far as we can tell. There was also a mainstream pro-Trump site called Team Trump on Tour. That was taken down for absolutely no reason. It only had about 5,000 followers. It was a bus, a pro-Trump bus traveling about America, pushing out the Trump message. That's been reinstated. And there was also one or two other sites that, as far as we know, have not yet been reinstated. So we're hopeful that A Force for Good will be reinstated. We're holding out for that. We have not been permanently suspended, at least we've had no notice of that, but we have been suspended. So we hold out hope that we will be reinstated if we keep appealing and if we keep drawing attention to our situation, which is really quite unjust, as I'm going to get into. Hi to Morwina. Good to see Richard. Bugsy says hello from Lanarkshire. Good stuff. Stuart says hi. Alistair says hi from Edinburgh. Marion says she's watching from Lark Hall. Gary says hi from Belfast. Good to see you guys in here. Sonia is watching from Falkirk. And Gilbert from the locked down granite city, the silver city of Aberdeen. Mawina says, looking for you on YouTube. Exactly, they're not going to beat us. Brian from glorious Gorgie. I personally used to live in Gorgie for about 7 or 8 years. I need to check that. Nicola says, watching from Barnsley. Good. I love Barnsley. Love Barnsley. And I love the music that comes out of Barnsley as well. Saxon, for example. Greg, well done, Alistair. Kath says, good afternoon from Glasgow. Bugsy saying, if the SNP manage to get independence over the line, then we will wake up the next morning in a communist country. Hugh says, you're a roaster. Does he mean me? Apparently so. Derek says, have a great day from Derek from Perth. Well, we're going to explain what it's about to you in a minute. Christine saying hello from Spain. Isn't it wonderful that we can reach out worldwide in this way? Karen, hello from Johnston. Marjorie from the Isle of Arran. And Robert from the Borders. Jamie, keep up the good work. Love the broadcasts, watching from Greengairs. Paul says, I see the Scottish Nationalists have raised 155,000 in 10 days for a court case. Absolutely. They throw the money away on things. I mean, that will be the easiest court case for whoever's getting that £155,000, which is to say the lawyers. I mean, because they already know what the answer is, and they'll just get the intern to draft it up, and then they'll charge hundreds of thousands of pounds potentially. I have a degree in Scots law. I know how these things work. Bill says, good afternoon. Sean is watching from Perth in Western Australia, not Perth in Scotland. Thank you so much for coming in, guys, on Facebook. Let me get back to what's happening with Twitter. So we received a message from them at 22:49 hours on Monday night. And here is what they said to us. And, you know, some of the Scottish nationalists on Twitter have been going, oh, what did they do? What did they do now? I'm wondering how on earth, we've been suspended. Well, I'm about to reveal to you exactly what happened. We received exactly the same message that Titania McGrath received, that Jarvis DuPont, or Jason DuPont, just Jarvis DuPont received, that the Babylon Bee received, that Team Trump on Tour received, and several others received. And that was a message saying, hello, your account, UK Air Force, has been suspended for violating the Twitter rules, specifically for violating our rules against platform manipulation and spam, whatever that means. There you go. Platform. And that's the date, that's the time that we received it as well. 22:49 on the 17th of August, violating our rules against platform manipulation and spam. Well, of course, that was a shock, came out the blue, and we're like, what on earth is platform manipulation and spam, you may very well ask. So we looked it up on Twitter's account, of course, to find out what it was that we were allegedly guilty of doing. And to be frank, half of this is difficult to understand, let alone know how to even do. But what they define platform manipulation as is using Twitter to engage in bulk, aggressive, or deceptive activity that misleads others and or disrupts their experience. Now, I'll just get into what those sorts of things are. Needless to say, we are entirely innocent of doing any of these things. We wouldn't even know how to do these things, and to do these things properly, you would need kind of complicated software and be running computer systems that can game the algorithms and game the system on Twitter, something that's way out of our league. You know, this is the sort of thing that if you're a Russian or Chinese bot, or you're trying to influence the American political system or something like that, you know, you'd hire a company to try to do these things. It's not something that we at A Force for Good could do if we even knew how to do it. So things that are in violation in that sense are things like you can't amplify or disrupt conversations through the use of multiple accounts. Now, this is something that the Scottish nationalists do, and we caught onto this very quickly, is that one person will have 10 email addresses and will set up 10 different email accounts and consequently 10 different Twitter accounts. And there'll be anonymous profiles that won't be a real picture of a real person. And they'll put out a message, somebody will argue with them, and then somebody else will answer in defense of the Scottish nationalist. and then that person will go back to that, and before you know it, that one unionist has 10 nationalists ganging up on him, when in fact it's the same person with 10 different accounts. Okay, multiple accounts being used to disrupt the experience on Twitter. That's something we do not do. It's something we would never do. We have one account. It's UK, a force for good. And when you speak to us, you know who you're talking to. You're talking to the UK, a force for good team. Now, another thing that can be done in this regard is selling or purchasing tweet or account metric inflation. Not really sure what that means, but it must mean something like, selling or purchasing tweet or account metric inflation. Who knows what that's about? What we do know here, using or promoting third-party services, which is to say other companies or other software, to add followers and engagements. Again, that's gaming the system through computer programs. That's not something we could even do. Certainly not something we would ever want to do. Selling, purchasing, or trading Twitter accounts. That's not something we're going to ever do. Sending bulk, aggressive, high volume, unsolicited replies or mentions or direct messages. That's not something we would ever do. Again, you need computer systems to do that, or you need to have some sort of company, like a foreign company, doing that for you. That's wrong. We would never do that. Following and then unfollowing large numbers of accounts. That's not something we would do. If we follow somebody, they follow us back, and we're now following each other. We leave it at that. Indiscriminate following, particularly by automated means, well, we have no interest in indiscriminately following people from around the world. We only want to follow people who are our way of thinking, or who are going to be sympathetic to the sorts of things that we believe in. We don't want to follow, 500,000 people in Uzbekistan or something like that. What is the value of doing that for us? Clearly we're only going to follow people who are relevant to us. So we don't engage in indiscriminate following at all. And that would just be a waste of time. And duplicating another follower's accounts, particularly using automation. Again, these are all things that somebody would do deliberately if they had the computer systems or the software to do it. It's not something that we're interested in doing at all, and it's not something that we would ever do. We're not interested in manipulating the platform, or certainly not sending out spam. Basically, if you are following us on Twitter, you know that what we do is we'll send out maybe original posts each day. We'll retweet 2 or 3 people, and we'll engage maybe 5, 6 likes. It's just a very basic Twitter experience, but it's very good. The stuff that we put out is very original, and we've definitely got a niche in the market. And that's why we have grown so fast since we dedicated ourselves to building that Twitter following. In the last couple of years, we've really grown by thousands, but it's a natural growth. It's an organic growth, and it's a growth that is a consequence of us having put out really good material. And there's other ways that you can mess up with Twitter, things that we would never do. For example, we are very conscious of Twitter's rules, and we follow them to the letter, and we ensure we do not fall foul of them. We don't even swear on Twitter. And if you've been on Twitter, you know that basically everybody swears on Twitter. We don't even do that. We maintain a very professional approach to things. We don't engage in any harassment. We don't retweet anybody that swears. We don't even retweet anybody who calls the Scottish nationalists nasty names. Nicola Sturgeon or Alex Salmond or the SNP as such have got all sorts of names that people call them. We won't retweet anybody who says that in a tweet. Okay, so that's a wee bit of advice. We won't retweet you if you're swearing in it. or if you are calling the nationalists nasty names, I'm not talking about fair comment. I'm talking about if you're really going at them, when we wouldn't retweet you. We try to keep this as civilized as possible. That's what we're about. We avoid giving offense. We avoid giving hurt if we can. We do not misrepresent anybody. We do not take people's words out of context. Now, that's something that the Scottish nationalists do all the time because they have no shame. They have no shame, so they're happy to misrepresent people if they're not actually lying about people. And we certainly don't masquerade as somebody or something that we're not. And we certainly don't spam or mislead or manipulate the platform. Our aim at A Force for Good on all our social media platforms is to behave to the highest possible professional standards as befits a campaigning organization of our size and our relevance and our national profile. And we have a very high national profile in Scotland. The entire media knows about us. Anybody who's interested in unionist politics knows about A Force for Good. We have a high profile now, and we have a great team behind us, a great team at the Twitter team. We're building our YouTube team now, a great team on Facebook, on Instagram, and on other networks, which I'm going to get to in a moment as well. So we have a great team, we're building it, and we have great activists who come out on the street with us. Great team of people who are not afraid to get out there on our thin red line. So we have got a really high profile now. So that's another injustice to try to take us down. I mean, it's not like we're some anonymous group. We have got a high profile in Scottish politics, and we are part of the online and physical debate in Scotland. So for a San Francisco company just to say, who are these people, zap them, it's not really right. It's undemocratic. So if I had to think of one word to describe what we do on on Twitter, right? If I had to describe one word about our tweets, I would say this: edifying. Edifying. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, when you've finished reading our tweet, you're a better person than you were at the start of that sentence. Okay? We have given value in our tweet. We don't just write a tweet for the sake of seeing words written down. We try to convey something so that when you read our tweet, you'll go, I never knew that. Or, well, that's an interesting angle that I'd never heard before. So we're giving you food for thought. We're delivering value so that when you finish that, you'll say, well, that was value that had been delivered unto me, I'm a wiser man as a consequence. That has delivered to me value. That's what we try to do with our tweets. Wiser, thou Twitter reader, thou wilt be tomorrow morn, to paraphrase the poem. That's the experience we deliver on Twitter. And that's why we grow so fast. And let's talk about growing so fast. And that's maybe why the Twitter computer has got confused and has thought, how are these people growing so fast? They must be manipulating the system with software or something like that. Well, we're not. We're not. What we are doing is creating value in our tweets. We have got a very direct demographic that's interested, that's not hearing this anywhere else. And so if you're a Scottish unionist, if you're pro-UK, you're going to know about us, you're going to see us on Twitter, you're going to follow us, okay? And we make our tweets interesting and educational and amusing in a way that is unique to us and our abilities. And so once we decided, look, let's really push the Twitter medium, we just grew. We grew like Topsy, as the phrase is. Hundreds of new followers a month, organically and naturally. That's how we're doing it. And that would be our message to Twitter, okay? And we'd like to reach out to Twitter and explain this to them. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, it seems that they don't really have a mechanism that will allow us to do things like that, but we're going to keep appealing. They have an appeals mechanism. We've appealed twice in the last week. We've heard nothing. We're going to appeal again first thing on Monday. And we've heard that sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks. Okay? So if we have not been reinstated by this time next Saturday, then it would be a very serious cause for concern. So we're hopeful that we will be reinstated, because there is no reason to take us off Twitter, and we will be absolute, fully transparent with Twitter and point all this out to them. So concerns going forward then. But I'm just going to say hello to some of the folk who are watching, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming in. Paul says, you are like the sensei of unionists. Well, that's a nice thing to say, Paul. That's fantastic. I used to do Kung Fu when I was younger. Still do a bit of it these days. Good. Please keep sending in your comments, folks. We love to hear from you. Any points or questions that you want to raise as well, please raise them with us. We're also broadcasting on YouTube at the moment as well. Now, concerns going forward. We have to consider that they might never get back to us, that Twitter might never get back to us. Hopefully, that's not going to be the case. We're holding out hope. We're always optimistic, and we'd be happy to speak with anyone from Twitter on this matter. However, point two, to take us down from Twitter is quite concerning politically, since we are not some anonymous, bogus account. We are the biggest pro-UK unionist campaigning organisation on Twitter. To remove us from Twitter is to remove a loud and a strong pro-UK unionist voice from one of Scotland's main debating chambers. Okay? It's like to remove an important voice that's a player in the Scottish political debate online. Just to remove that seems completely undemocratic, especially when, as I keep emphasizing, we are not like so many accounts on Twitter which are anonymous. We have real people behind our account. We have a real profile pic showing who we are. Everybody knows who runs A Force for Good, and everybody knows there are real people behind it, and everybody knows that we real people are accountable for what we say on Twitter. We're not somebody who can just rot off some silly comment and know that he or she is completely free from being found out about it. Everything that we say is deliberate, because we know everything we say has consequences. So we are in fact a model participant on the Twitter platform. We are the sort of group that Twitter should be holding up as a shining example of how to do it correctly. Be real, have a real picture, be accountable for your words and actions, and stand by them, and obey all the Twitter rules, which we do. So we are a model client on the Twitter platform. So it's horrifying, actually, that they should just scrub us for no reason. Yes, we're an established part of the political landscape in Scotland, and we're not going to go away, regardless of what happens here with this Twitter carry on. So what are we doing? What we are doing is we're continuing to appeal, as I mentioned, and if we haven't heard by the end of next week, well, we'll just have to take it from there. We have been speaking with our colleagues, and what we're going to do, whatever happens with Twitter, is we're going to push our YouTube platform. Now, we publish on YouTube several times a week. The videos that we put out on Facebook, we also put them up on Twitter. The little videos that we cut we also put them up on Twitter. So there's 3 or 4 videos going up each week on Twitter. Our Twitter platform is active, but we don't broadcast on it live until today. Now, let me just tell you a little something about live on Twitter. You can broadcast live via a tablet or a laptop or a desktop browser, but you can't broadcast on YouTube via a mobile phone, at least not via an Android mobile phone, until you have 1,000 subscribers. We don't have 1,000 subscribers, so we are broadcasting today via our tablet on YouTube. And we are hoping that if we can do more live broadcasts, our aim on YouTube is to get those subscribers up to at least 1,000, so that we can then switch to broadcasting on our Android mobile phone, which will enable us to broadcast as and when, wherever we happen to be. So our priority, as well as building all our platforms, is to really push subscribers on YouTube, to get our subscribers on YouTube up to over 1,000, because it's, for some strange reason, we're still below 500 subscribers, which to us doesn't really make sense considering the volume of stuff that we put out. But there's maybe reasons for that. And it could be that we haven't done enough live broadcasting on YouTube. So that's going to change from now on. And that's something that we're going to aim to do every Saturday. Today, that's the first live broadcast on YouTube via a tablet, and we're very much flying by the seat of our pants on YouTube today. But that's going to only improve. So that's something that we're doing. We are seeing whatever options we can use to get the message out, because it's such a valuable and important message, and the unionist voice in Scotland has to be heard, and it has to be heard strongly and articulately, and we, along with others, are the people who can do that. So we must build those platforms. Now, people have said, how can we help? How can we help you, Alistair? How can we help A Force for Good? Well, there's 3 ways that you can help if you're not already doing these 3 things. And the first thing is to ensure that you're signed up to our fortnightly email update, because email is always going to be around. People can't really take your email away from you, although of course they've tried with other people. But if you've got an email, you can still contact people. So sign up to our fortnightly email update, and you do that by going to aforceforgood.uk/support. And if we can put that link up in the comments, please, aforceforgood.uk/support. Click on that, put in your name, put in your email, and that will be you signed up to our fortnightly email update. So you'll always know what we're up to. If you really want to know what we're up to, you have to join the inner circle, by which we mean you've got to come out with us on the street so we know who you are, so we've met you as a real person. But everybody can sign up to support. aforceforgood.uk/support. If you stick that up in the Facebook comments, please, the Facebook team. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier there, subscribe to us on YouTube. Now, you'll need a YouTube account for that. I know many of you watching do have YouTube accounts. So if you do, please do sign up to us at UK A Force for Good. Okay, you just type in A Force for Good or UK A Force for Good. You'll get of our videos, and simply click the red button that says subscribe and click the bell for notifications. And let's get up to at least 1,000 subscribers on YouTube so we can start to make that platform work for us. And the third thing that you can do is you can follow us on a social media site called Parler. That's Parler, parler.com. Now, we've got a lot of foresight, and we had a foresight to set up a Parler account a little while ago. We don't really advertise it, but we're on there. We've got 5.6 thousand followers already on Parler. So if you're not on Parler, you need to download the app, Parler, Parler, and set up your own account on Parler and follow us. And you just need to search for A Force for Good or UK A Force for Good, and you'll find us straight away. Now, Parler isn't an exact alternative to Twitter. It's American. And when I say that, I mean virtually everybody on it is American. And it is largely, heavily pro-Trump. So it's not as a wide-ranging platform as Twitter. Twitter has everybody on it. Parler is more of a specific demographic, but it's growing. And the more people from Britain who go onto it, then the more useful it's going to be as a communication platform for us here in the UK. So at least let's get started and get the Brits onto Parler. As I say, it's not a direct alternative to Twitter, but it's complementary. So sign up to support us by giving us your name and email at aforceforgood.uk/support. Subscribe to us on YouTube so we can build up this alternative platform on YouTube, and follow us on parler.com. These are 3 things. And as somebody once said, that will help us build back better. Build back better. And, you know, we keep moving forward. We keep moving forward because that's the British spirit. Never surrender when your back's against the wall. Never surrender. Stand up. Fight them all. Who said that? The boys from Barnsley said that. Saxon said that in their song, Never Surrender. Okay? And somebody else said, we shall never surrender, didn't they? Somebody else said that. So that is our attitude. We will never surrender to those who may try to take us down. Now, in this case, with Twitter, we're hoping that it's an honest mistake. We believe it is an honest mistake. And we've set out our case today why it's an honest mistake. And we ask them respectfully to reinstate us, please. But whatever happens, we will never give up. We will keep fighting. We will fight the good fight with all our might. We'll fight the good fight with all our might. And you'll never get rid of A Force for Good. Never. Because we are here to stay. And you need to know that if you're watching. Like, if you invest in us in some way, whether emotionally or spiritually or financially, it's a good investment, you know. It's a good investment for the future because we're not going to cave. We're not going to flake. We're not going to give up. We're here to stay, and we're here to win. Regardless of what happens, we will keep fighting until eternity, basically. We're not stopping, you know, and when one of us drops, somebody else will take over. So we're here to stay, and we're not going away. So you can invest in us with confidence. We've been here as an organization since 21st of March 2012, 8 years. We've got a lot of people who support us. We've also, unfortunately, got a lot of people who don't like us. We've got a lot of people who say nasty things. We've got a lot of people who misrepresent us. We've got a lot of people who try to pull us down. We've got a lot of people who try to make fun of us. We've got a lot of people who just hate us, you know, but they hate us because they rate us, okay? Our haters are in some ways, they give us the energy to keep fighting the good fight. So you can throw everything you want at A Force for Good, but we're going to be here to stay, and we're not going away, because we will never surrender when our back is against the wall. We will never surrender. We will always stand up and fight them all. So that's about all I want to say, really, on the Twitter thing. But I want to move into some comments here. Gary says, hope you're keeping well. Absolutely, Gary, and I hope I hope you're well too. Andrew says, well said, Ali, no surrender. Greg says, Britain, we will not fail. Totally agree. Bill's saying, remember when you subscribe on YouTube to click the bell for notifications. That's a good point. So that will mean that every time we're live or every time we release a new video, you'll get a notification on your mobile phone that it was from us. Alistair saying he's subscribed to YouTube. Good stuff. Morag saying she just has. Marion, yes, it is in the post to you. Marion's asking about her wee book. It's in the post, and the reason it took so long was because it took a little while for us to pick up the letter. But when we got the letter, which was on Friday, we have sent it to you. And this is our wee book for the Union, which is selling extremely well. Every day we're selling a handful of these. It's only a £5. It's a pocket book, A6 size, perfect bound. And to read the back of it, it challenges the false narratives of Scottish separatism and makes a thorough and positive case for our United Kingdom. A must-have for anybody who wants an informed opinion on Scotland and the Union. So check it out, and it's in 4 parts: the past, the present, the debate today, and the future, making a better Britain. And if we can put up the link to a wee book for the Union, which you'll find in our shop, which is at aforceforgood.uk. But that's a really good seller, and it's put us in mind for a lot of wee pocket books that we can write, that we've got the ability to write, and which we are going to write just as soon as we get the resources to enable us to do that. So one or two people just talking about the politics of the day. John saying, I've heard that Twitter are clearing out lots of accounts. Well, sometimes they clear out false accounts and anonymous accounts. Nobody really has a problem with them doing that. It's when they clear out proper accounts that are taking part in necessary political debate. That's when that's a problem. That's like trying to ban somebody from talking on a public stage, which isn't the British way, really. Richard's saying the wee book's excellent, one of the best ideas for promoting the pro-Britain message yet. Thank you, Richard. It is an absolute wee gem. Paul saying these colours don't run. These colours don't run. That's an Iron Maiden song, I think. It is. I can assure you it is. Good song. Might play that one of these days. Good. So I want to talk just very briefly about a really good interview that you should check out. We put it up on our Facebook page. It was an interview on Talk Radio, and it was on Wednesday the 19th, and it was between Mike Graham and the great Neil Oliver, and it lasts for about 20 minutes, and Neil says so many clever things in it, and I thought that he summarized in many ways exactly how many of us are feeling at the moment, and he spoke about what he refers to as a, quote, whole parcel of concerns which are developing in Scotland right now. And he made mention of the pervasive atmosphere of censorship which appears to exist. And of course, it's being made worse by Humza Yousaf's new anti-free speech law, which is an attempt simply to ensure that nobody disagrees with the SNP and their ideology moving forward. In other words, to try to smear people by claiming that it's hateful to, for example, disagree with Humza Yousaf. And I'm not actually exaggerating when I say that. because he only has to say that he has been offended or he finds something to be offensive, and lo and behold, he could actually get anybody up in court upon it. So it's a very dangerous law. We've got some ideas of how to highlight it. We've been highlighting it since we first understood that it was happening. In fact, we've written a very good article about free speech for Scots, which is on our website, aforceforgood.uk, and please, we'll stick that up in the link as well. Have a look at that and you can see our major concerns with the matter. But I thought Neil summed it up so well. I'm just going to quote what he said. He goes, and he's talking about the repression. And in a way, we've suffered from that. Well, we've not suffered from it, but we've been subject to it this week from Twitter. Hopefully a mistake, hopefully something that will be rectified. But he was speaking about the extent to which he's been attacked for his views. And he said this, he said, quote, "I have experienced this very, very personally. I write a column, as you know, and I have spoken out and written about my support for the continuation of the United Kingdom." He says, "I would prefer for Scotland to remain a part of the United Kingdom, and I keep banging that drum. And it annoys a specific part of the demographic. Whether or not there is a determination to stifle debate, I honestly do not know. But as I say, that is what it feels like. I don't think it can be in any administration or political party's interests," and he's talking about the SNP, "to be perceived as trying to silence opposition. We have been silenced. There is a very large congregation who think and speak as I do, but at the moment you just don't hear very much from them. And if this new legislation goes through, my prediction is that you'll hear a whole lot less." And that was very well said. That was Neil Oliver on Talk Radio on Wednesday, the 19th of August, 2020. And you can see that interview by going to Talk Radio's Facebook page or checking out our Facebook page, upon which we shared that video. And so he's right about this whole parcel of concerns, which has come about at the moment when, as I mentioned last week, the country is kind of demoralized because, you know, we're all being told to be afraid and to be scared and not to even go out, not to meet people, not to do the normal things that we would normally do. So that's led to a kind of demoralization of the mind of the nation. And on top of that, we've had physical assaults on the symbols of the nation through the ongoing campaign against the statues of all of our great British heroes. And, you know, we at A Force for Good have taken it upon ourselves to defend the Dundas statue in Edinburgh that the that the opponents of it want literally to bring down, or if not to bring it down, to befoul it with a misinterpretation of history, and just to give it a bad smell as a consequence, and to make us feel less confident, not only in our past but also in our present today. And so we're getting hit by demoralization with the COVID. We're getting hit by demoralization of our past. And it's for us to stand up against that, to provide intellectual protection for ourselves. To provide intellectual protection against this demoralization, which has also been seen as well when we switch on and we see that our borders even are not safe, that our borders just appear to be open. So it's almost like a physical invasion of the country as well. So that's serious psychological warfare that the country at the moment is being subjected to. And on top of that, you've got the SNP with their anti-free speech laws, and they're wanting to actually destroy the integrity of the United Kingdom itself. And so there's a big attack going on right now, and even if you don't see it right now on the telly, it's under the surface. So what can be done about that? Well, we have to push back, and one of the reasons for this attack, of course, is Brexit. Now, Brexit totally changed the game in 2016. The establishment, by which I mean most of the politicians and all of the mainstream media and all of academia, were opposed to Brexit. Now, whatever your position on it may be, and there's reputable and respectable positions on all sides, the fact is Brexit changed the game because it was a revolutionary act. And the people who don't want that have really pushed back, and they want to bring down the tempo on top of themselves and on top of the country as punishment for Brexit. And so that's why the media are really pushing this kind of agenda, which is against the United Kingdom. And they're doing that to try to bring down the tempo on top of themselves, because they're so angry, they want to cut off their nose to spite their face. And so that's what's going on. So how do we fight back? We fight back by building intellectual protection so that we can be emotionally and spiritually protected from that kind of attack. And one of the things that we always do at A Force for Good to build that intellectual protection is to have our daily On This Day in History, so that we can recall to memory our British past, so that we can help it inform the present, so that we can have the courage and the confidence to go forward into the future. And every day on Facebook, we do a This Day in British History. We used to do a This Day in British History on Twitter. That was one of our edifying tweets that I was talking about earlier. The sort of tweet that makes you a better person. The sort of tweet that only A Force for Good can deliver. That's what we do every day on our social media platforms, among other things, of course. And this coming week, we're going to be covering various issues. Today, the 22nd of August, in 1888, Queen Victoria herself opened the beautiful Glasgow City Chambers, which are still with us. She opened them in person today on the 22nd of August in 1888. And if you look up to the top, there's a pediment which has her in the middle of it, and she's surrounded by figures from Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales, and also figures from the rest of the British Empire as well, bringing gifts and knowledge to her. And above the pediment are representations of truth, riches, and honour. It's a beautiful building, Glasgow City Chambers. On the 25th of August, the first and last British royal to be killed in active service was killed on the 25th of August 1942. That was Prince George, who was the son of George V, and he was killed when his RAF Sunderland flying boat crashed in Caithness. And I say he was the first member of the royal family in 450 years to die on active service. That was Prince George. On the 25th also of August in 1819, James Watt, one of the creators of the Industrial Revolution, and indeed, as a consequence, one of the creators of the British Empire, James Watt, he passed away. He was, of course, born in Greenock. He did not invent the steam engine, but he helped to perfect the steam engine. And he was born in Greenock. On the 27th of August in 1748, the man who wrote Rule Britannia, James Thomson, passed away. As we always say, James Thomson was a Scotsman who was born in the Borders into a very patriotically British family. And one of the writers of the writer of perhaps one of our greatest songs. When Britain first at heaven's command arose from out the azure main, this was the charter of the land, and guardian angels sang this strain. Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves, Britons never, never shall be slaves. Well, do you know, I hope that he's right in that. I hope that we're not going to be slaves. Sometimes the way things go, you wonder that there is a British soul that can rise again, just as the Scotsman James Thomson sang about. And another point here, it was Britannia rule the waves. It was an exhortation to do something. It wasn't saying that Britannia rules the waves. It was Britannia rule, something to come in the future, rule the waves. And of course, that is exactly what happened as a consequence of not just that song, but of other people building up the Royal Navy, including Henry Dundas, who built up the Royal Navy when he was First Lord of the Admiralty, the Navy that was then to go on to win Trafalgar, to essentially rule the waves during the 19th century. On the 27th of August again, the man who contributed massively to communication, not just in this country but in the world, Rowland Hill, who invented, or rather is credited with popularizing the postage stamp which led to mass communication networks via the Royal Mail. And he's got a statue in London in King Edward Street. Also on the 27th of August in 1822, the foundation stone for the National Monument of Scotland on Calton Hill was laid. Now that's the Greek-looking pillars that stand on the top of Calton Hill. That was going to be a much bigger monument, and it was going to be, and is still, dedicated to the soldiers who died in the Napoleonic Wars. However, it was such a grand design that they perhaps a little bit maybe too optimistic, they weren't able to actually finish it. But there it stands, and it's a monument to the men who died in the Napoleonic Wars. And not many people know that. I only discovered that about a year ago, that that's what it was for. And on the 28th of August, this coming week, in 1833, William IV gave royal assent to the Slavery Abolition Act 1833, which was the law that abolished the practice of slavery in the British Empire. Earlier in 1807, the trade in slaves had been abolished in the British Empire. But it wasn't until 1833 that the actual practice was also abolished. And on the 28th of August 1833, that's when royal assent was given to that act. And of course, the British, who ruled the waves in the 19th century, were able to an extent to really cut down on the trade. And many British soldiers and sailors who sailed of all ethnicities with the Royal Navy perished in that battle to abolish the trade on the high seas. And as we said in our Dundas Declaration, which we can stick up there, when on the 20th of June, when we took on the BLM people and we defended Henry Dundas's honour, we called for a monument to the sailors of the British Royal Navy who perished on the high seas enforcing these acts throughout the 19th century, specifically the West Africa Squadron that captured many slave ships and freed many Africans. And on the 28th of August, the Glaswegian creator of Carnaby Street was born, John Stephen, born in Glasgow. and it was he who created Carnaby Street as the fashion centre during the 1960s and to an extent during the 70s as well. And he came from Glasgow, and a very good example of how the union has helped to create a sense of Britishness on all levels, not just social, but even on things like fashion and music. How are we getting on with people coming in here? Thank you very much for watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching today on Facebook. Now, Marion says, thank you. Richard saying, Neil is a great Scottish and British patriot. Neil Oliver, yes. John saying, there's a lot of good interviews on talk radio. Yeah, there is. Paul says, it's always darkest before the dawn. Morwena says, when the coin flips, they will know why we are British and Scottish. We can only take so much. United we stand. Divided we fall. And Christopher says that there are plenty of laws available to deal with the issues that the proposed hate crime legislation claims to be targeting. That's absolutely correct. Any serious call to criminal action can most certainly be dealt with by the laws that already exist at the moment. He says that the line about AFFG providing intellectual protection against nationalism is a very good one. Thank you. We spotted that phrase intellectual protection in an article several weeks ago, and we thought going to use that because it does sum up what we need. We need intellectual protection. And in a way, this is a form of intellectual protection, a wee book for the union. It helps your mind to know what is going on and what we're standing for, basically. So you can get that. Please put the link up in the description there. It's only a £5. Some people buy one for themselves. Some people buy one for the local MP or MSP to send it to them as well. Or a stocking filler as well for, or a wee present just for a colleague. Very good. Somebody actually bought 30 copies of these as well to distribute to a group that they know. So people are buying lots of them. They're flying off the shelves, a wee book for the union. And not only that, but we've got a wee badge for the union, which is a copy of our AFFG flag. It's got AFFG through the middle. So please get that as well. People buy that for themselves, for their family members. And if you're sending a wee birthday card or something like that, it's a good wee thing just to include in, just pin it into the birthday card. And you're sending a wee badge as a wee gift. And there's also our classic heart badge as well, all of which you can get from our shop. So we'll put the link up there for them. Stephen says, how ready are we to counter-protest any marches the AUOB should decide to hold? We're ready and willing and able, Stephen. We've got all of the kit that we need. One or two items that we'll still get. We need more flags. We need more flag poles. We're looking into getting a stronger microphone. But all of that's in hand. But if anybody wants to help us towards getting those sorts of things, please go to aforceforgood.uk/donate to, and just pop in some money there. With any donations that we receive go into our activism account, which is to do things like buy flags, to buy poles, to buy camera equipment, all that kind of stuff. Bill says, what about a crowdfunder? Well, we're going to have our Yo Britannia Christmas crowdfunder that will be coming up in December. We haven't had one during the summer just because of the COVID lockdown. Didn't seem appropriate, but we're going to be having a big one in December, our Yule Britannia crowdfunder. That will be coming up in December. For a couple of billboards, well, yeah, we've thought of billboards. We've thought of that. there's other ways, there's other more effective ways at the moment that if we have a small amount of money, we can spend it a little bit more effectively than in a billboard. Billboards are expensive, but it's a good idea, and it's something that if we had a lot of money, we would do. There's the Dundas declaration has been put up in the comments. Thank you. Ashley says, another great all the team's work. Thank you very much for those kind words, Ashley, because kind words really do help to mitigate all the harmful words that get thrown at us. You know, I'll tell you a good story, actually. Last week, a little section of our video from last week got onto Twitter, and it was seen over 400,000 times. But of course, what that means is you get a lot of nasty comments, you know, some nice comments. Everybody kind of enjoyed it, that's for sure. Everybody enjoyed the video. But, you know, so it's always nice to get nice comments like that. And it was great that we got 400,000 views. I mean, amazing. 48 hours later, we taken off Twitter even. Colin says you better hurry up, the game's coming on. We're just going to finish, Colin. Thank you very much for watching, by the way, Colin. Well, Ronnie there's making a point about why aren't more people fighting for the cause. I think at the end of the day, only a very small number of people will get motivated, and most people are not interested in politics. We do a lot of talking, obviously, but we also do a lot of action. Obviously, this year's been a little bit different as far as that's concerned, but we are going to be out on the street in various places in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So just watch this space for physical action. Okay, so we're going to end there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's been our first ever YouTube broadcast, and it's been our 21st Saturday street stall. So thank you for watching. It just remains for me to say, God bless the United Kingdom, and God save the Queen. Thank you.